he deserves someone better than you. You are simply not worthy of him.
How can you say that? You don't know me at all.
How could you bring shame upon us? She is completely unworthy of you. Our family deserves better than her.
It's okay now, let it out. We are right here. We promise we will always be here for you. It's okay to cry, let it out. We are right here with you.
I thought I was stronger than this.
You are strong. We'll face this together.
What happens when love must stand trial before tradition? When Huyen returns to Dae's hometown for their formal family introduction, she hopes for acceptance, but instead faces cold stares and painful judgment for being a divorced woman with a child. As relatives question Dae's choice and whisper about her past, Huyen's quiet strength begins to tremble. Yet in the midst of humiliation and doubt, Huyen makes a decision that changes everything. This is not just a story about love. It is a story about courage, dignity, and the power of choosing each other, despite the weight of society's expectations. The afternoon sunlight stretched lazily across Dae's hometown, bathing the narrow dirt road and old tiled roofs in a warm, honey-colored glow. It had been many years since he last walked that familiar path with someone he loved by his side. Today, however, everything felt different. Beside him walked Huyen, quiet, graceful, and carrying within her a mixture of hope and anxiety she tried so hard to conceal. Little Maya skipped gently between them, her small hand sometimes reaching for her mother's, sometimes for Dae's, as if instinctively sensing that this visit meant something important. For Huyen, now in her early 40s, life was no longer about chasing dreams or proving herself to the world. She had endured enough storms, raising her daughter alone, rebuilding her dignity after a broken marriage, learning to stand tall despite whispers behind her back. What she longed for now was simple: acceptance, stability, and a place where her child could feel safe. As they approached the ancestral house, the scent of dried hay and wood smoke drifted through the air, awakening memories in Dae, but tightening something inside Huyen's chest. Relatives had already gathered in the courtyard, their conversations pausing ever so slightly when the three of them entered. The smiles that greeted Dae were warm, yet when their eyes shifted toward Huyen and Maya, curiosity hardened into quiet judgment. Huyen felt it immediately: the subtle scanning glance, the polite but distant nods, the lowered voices that resumed just a second too quickly. She kept her posture straight, offering respectful greetings in a gentle tone, determined to show sincerity and humility. She understood traditional values, she respected family roots, but she also knew she carried a past that some would never overlook. For a woman of her generation, divorce was not merely a chapter closed, it was a label society rarely erased. Being a single mother added another layer of scrutiny. Huyen had prepared herself for resistance, yet preparation did little to soften the sting of reality. She sensed the unspoken question lingering in the air. Why would Dae, a man with no previous marriage, choose a woman who had already been someone else's wife? Why take responsibility for another man's child? Those silent doubts pressed against her heart more heavily than outright accusations might have. Still, she refused to let Maya see her discomfort. She gently adjusted her daughter's dress, whispered reassurance, and forced a composed smile. In that moment, standing in the courtyard of Dae's family home, Huyen realized that love in midlife carries a different weight. It is no longer impulsive or naive. It is deliberate, thoughtful, and deeply aware of consequences. She loved Dae not because she needed saving, but because he had treated her with respect and kindness when she least expected it. Yet as she stood under the watchful eyes of tradition and expectation, she wondered whether love alone could bridge the gap between old beliefs and new beginnings. The late afternoon breeze brushed softly against her face, but it did little to calm the quiet tremor inside her heart. The uneasy stillness that settled in the courtyard did not fade as everyone moved inside for the formal introduction. Instead, it followed them to the long wooden dining table, where generations of Dae's family had gathered for celebrations, memorials, and important announcements. The ancestral altar flickered quietly in the corner, its incense smoke curling upward like silent witnesses to the unfolding moment. Huyen sat beside Dae, her hands folded neatly in her lap, Maya pressed gently against her side. She could feel her daughter's small fingers clutching the fabric of her sleeve, a silent request for protection. Day's relatives began with polite questions about Huyen's work, her hometown, her parents. At first, the tone was measured, even courteous, but beneath each inquiry lingered an edge that cut deeper than the words themselves. Then came the sighs, the subtle shakes of heads. An older aunt cleared her throat and spoke with a softness that barely concealed disapproval. A man like Day has many opportunities. It's unusual to choose such a complicated situation. The word complicated lingered in the air like an accusation. Another relative, emboldened by agreement, added, raising someone else's child is not easy. Marriage should begin clean, without burdens from the past. Though their voices remained calm, the message was unmistakable. Huyen felt heat rise behind her eyes, but she kept her gaze lowered in respect. She had faced harsh realities before, lonely nights calculating expenses, enduring judgment from neighbors, suppressing her own exhaustion so Maya would never feel insecure. Yet this moment felt different. It was not strangers judging her. It was the family of the man she loved. Maya shifted uncomfortably when one of the cousins glanced at her and whispered something that drew quiet laughter. The sound pierced Huyen's heart more sharply than any direct insult. She wrapped her arm around her daughter protectively, instinctively shielding her from the invisible arrows of prejudice. In that instant, old memories resurfaced, standing outside school meetings alone, answering awkward questions about Maya's father, pretending strength when she felt fragile. She had believed that with Day, she was finally stepping into a chapter defined not by survival but by companionship. Yet here she was again, silently defending her worth without speaking a single word. As the meal continued, conversation moved on, but the atmosphere remained heavy. Huyen tried to swallow the lump in her throat along with each bite of rice. The ancestral home, filled with history and pride, suddenly felt too small for her breathing. She excused herself gently, saying she needed some air. No one stopped her. Outside, the sky had deepened into shades of orange and violet, and the distant fields swayed peacefully in the wind, indifferent to human judgment. Standing on the veranda, Huyen finally allowed a tear to slip down her cheek. It was not anger she felt, but sorrow, a quiet ache born from wanting so desperately to belong. She wondered if loving again had been selfish. She wondered whether Day, despite his promises, would eventually grow weary of defending a love that required constant explanation. The evening breeze brushed against her face, cool and tender, yet it could not quiet the question echoing inside her heart. Was sincere love enough to overcome the weight of tradition and expectation? Day watched from inside as Huyen stepped out onto the veranda, her slender figure silhouetted against the fading light. He had heard every word at the table. He had felt the tension tightening around her like an invisible rope. For a moment, he remained seated, torn between the expectations of family and the quiet cry of the woman he loved. But it did not take long for his heart to choose. He rose without a word and followed her outside, the wooden floorboards creaking softly beneath his steps. Huyen's seat facing the fields, her shoulders trembling ever so slightly. When Day reached her, he did not speak immediately. Instead, he gently placed his hand over hers, warm and steady. She tried to wipe her tears quickly, embarrassed at being seen vulnerable again. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Maybe I shouldn't have come. I don't want to make things difficult for you." The apology broke something inside him. Day turned her toward him, lifting her chin so she would look into his eyes. "You are not a difficulty," he said firmly, his voice calm but unwavering. "You are the woman I chose. I knew your past before I loved you, and I loved you because of your strength, not in spite of it." His words carried none of the impulsiveness of youth. They were grounded, deliberate, and filled with conviction that only maturity can give. He spoke of the nights he had seen her fall asleep at the kitchen table after helping Maya with homework. He spoke of the quiet dignity with which she faced life's hardships. "If loving you means explaining myself 1,000 times, I will do it 1,000 times," he added, "because my life is not a performance for others. It is something I must live truthfully." Inside the house, voices continued to murmur, but Day no longer felt bound by them. Taking Huyen's hand, he led her back into the courtyard. The conversations quieted as he stood before his relatives. Respectfully but resolutely, he addressed them. He acknowledged their concerns, their traditions, their hopes for him. But he made one thing unmistakably clear. Huyen was his future. "Maya is not someone else's child," he said gently. "From the moment I decided to love Huyen, she became my daughter in my heart." His declaration was not loud, yet it carried across the room with undeniable strength. Silence followed, heavy, contemplative. Some faces softened, others remained rigid. But something had shifted. Huyen felt his hand tighten around hers, not possessively, but protectively. In that instant, her tears were no longer born of shame, but of gratitude. She realized that at this stage of life, love is not about romance alone. It is about courage, the courage to stand beside someone when it would be easier to step away. As night settled over the village, the ancestral home seemed less intimidating. The road ahead would not be free of judgment, nor would acceptance come overnight. Yet Huyen no longer felt alone in facing it. With Day standing beside her, steady, resolute, and unashamed, she understood that true belonging does not begin with others' approval. It begins with two people choosing each other, again and again, despite the noise of the world.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Live Single RV. Vậy là câu chuyện của chúng ta đã kết thúc tại đây. Trong câu chuyện của chúng ta ngày hôm nay thì đã kể về nội dung đó chính là việc Huyền và Đệ cùng với bé Mai A đã về quê Đệ ăn Tết và cùng nhau ra mắt họ hàng gia đình nhà Đệ ở quê. Nhưng mà có một điều đáng buồn đã xảy ra, đó chính là việc họ hàng nhà Đệ không chấp nhận Huyền. Họ cho rằng Đệ xứng đáng với một người con gái tốt hơn Huyền, chứ không phải là một người đã từng để có một đời chồng và có một con gái riêng là bé Mai A như Huyền. Do đó Huyền cảm thấy những lời lẽ họ hàng nhà Đệ nói với cô khiến cô cảm thấy rất là buồn và khiến cho cô cảm thấy bản thân mình bị tổn thương. Đệ đúng lúc này đã đứng ra bảo vệ cô. Anh chỉ cần ở bên cạnh Huyền và Mai A, còn những người còn lại không quan trọng với anh. Đệ luôn luôn ở bên cạnh bảo vệ Huyền và Mai A, mặc kệ những lời nói xung quanh. Mọi tình tiết hấp dẫn về câu chuyện sẽ còn được mình kể ở các video tiếp theo. Các bạn đừng quên bấm vào nút subscribe, đăng ký kênh sẽ nhận được thông báo mới nhất về các câu chuyện sẽ được mình phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh Live Single RV nhé. Các bạn cũng đừng quên bấm nút like, share và để lại bình luận góp ý ở dưới video. Mọi ý kiến góp ý của các bạn sẽ giúp mình cải thiện các nội dung trên kênh hay hơn nữa để phục vụ khán giả. Huyền và Đệ cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều. Huyền and Đệ, thank you so much. Please continue support our channel Live Single RV. Bye bye and see you soon tomorrow everyone.